Hello, welcome to another video. Today we are going to be talking about the best books that I read in 2021. Best and surprising because there's a couple in this list that I might not have expected to be the best of the year, but here is my top 10 books of 2021. Halfway through 2021, I stopped using Corpile, stopped tracking on Goodreads, and just really stopped tracking my reading. So I have had to kind of go back and fill in Corpile, kind of backtracked. So my Corpile ratings are not incredibly accurate, so I'm not going to go into that much detail here, which therefore means that these are not in any particular order. These are just all 5-star reads. 10 5-star reads that, of all of my 5-star reads, are the ones that have stuck with me, the ones that I would consider the best reads of the year. So let's just crack on with it, shall we? First one I have here on top of the pile is Malice by John Gwynne. I was completely sucked into this story, absolutely loved it. Cannot quite believe that I haven't yet read Valor. What I loved so much about this is the fact that I didn't know who I was rooting for the longest time. Do I still not know? Kind of. I kind of still don't know who I'm rooting for, or who I think is what. But I'm only one book into a 4-book series, so there's time for me to make those discoveries. But this takes place in the Banished Lands, where armies of men and giants have clashed for many years, and there's an uneasy peace. However, something is breaking this uneasy peace, something is rising again, and there is a prophecy that is soon to be realised. And this prophecy speaks of 2 individuals, the Black Sun and the Bright Star. And throughout this, we get hints to who we think perhaps is the Bright Sun and who could be the Black Star, but then there are moments where it twists and you think, no, that's definitely the other way around, and then you're like, but wait, is it? Is that person that person? Is that person's intentions what we really think they are? And it really just boggled my mind. But I loved how involved I felt in this prophecy element of trying to work out what is going on. But on top of that, the whole political fantasy element of empires on the brink of war is always something that I really enjoy. And John Gwynne's writing style actually was really easy to get into. This was kind of intimidating. Mainly, you know, size, chunky adult fantasy books can be a little bit intimidating. But I found this a really easy read and ended up really enjoying it, completely falling into it, and cannot believe I haven't read the sequel yet. Definitely need to get to that ASAP. But yeah, do I know who I think is the right people in this prophecy? No. Do I want to know? Yes, I do. Next on my pile, I have The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. 3rd book in the Mistborn trilogy, the initial Mistborn trilogy. Possibly the best ending to a trilogy that I have ever read. The end of this absolutely blew my mind. I love it. I love it so much. It's still something that really sticks with me, the ending to this, because it's really mind-blowing. Like, it wasn't what I was expecting, but it was such a perfect ending, and now thinking back on it, could it ever have ended any other way? But did I want it? No. But am I happy with it? Yes. Is it everything that it needed to be? Yes. It just has so many emotions, the ending of this book. It was fantastic. The whole Mistborn trilogy really is fantastic, but for one to go on my best books of the year, Hero of Ages absolutely is on there. This was outstanding. If you haven't yet read the Mistborn trilogy, it is about a group of people who want to overthrow the Lord Ruler in a world where allomancy exists, which is the power to ingest metals, and that metal gives you a certain power, and a Mistborn is someone who can ingest all of the metals to gain all of those powers, and we follow this group of people with different allomantic abilities as they want to overthrow the Lord Ruler. It gets a lot deeper than that. As a base to introduce you to Mistborn, if you haven't read it, I really recommend you do. And this ending was phenomenal. Next up on my list, I have The Golden Fall by Robin Hobb. This is my favourite Robin Hood book so far. In terms of my favourite overall trilogy, I think The Live Ship Traders is still my favourite trilogy, like as a collective, but if I was ranking the individual Robin Hood books, I think this one is my favourite individually. I loved this book. This book made me feel so many things. I read it so quickly. I absolutely flew through this one because I was addicted. This had so many things like coming together, and it became a way more like unified story in this one, and it just made my heart soar to see certain things like come together. It was beautiful. It was painful, but Robin Hood books always are, but it was also beautiful. I really enjoyed this one. I definitely think the plot in this one perhaps isn't as strong as some of the other Hood ones, but the book itself, how deeply this book made me feel for so many of the characters. I mean, I already did, but then seeing things develop and change and come together in this book was just incredible. I loved it. My favourite Robin Hood book so far. Next up on my list we have Echo North by Joanna Ruth Meyer. This is an East of the Sun, West of the Moon retelling that I absolutely fell in love with. I think this is a thing for me though. East of the Sun, West of the Moon retellings seem to be things that I just generally fall in love with anyway, and this was one of them. This follows a young girl called Echo whose world falls apart when her father leaves, and he's disappeared for months, and she's shocked to find him in the forest, like frozen half to death, being guarded by a strange talking wolf. And this wolf happens to be the same wolf that attacked her as a child, and she's got some scarring from this attack from this same wolf. And this wolf provides her with an option. She can leave, or she can save her father in exchange for living with him for 1 year. Sounds very Beauty and the Beast at that point. Am I right? So, with it being an East of the Sun, West of the Moon retelling, she goes and lives with this wolf for a year in his enchanted house, and if you're familiar with how East of the Sun, West of the Moon goes, then you'll know. There are secrets unfolding in this house, a magical library and mirrors and like alternate reality type things and mysteries unraveling and everything. Very classic fairy tale, of course, and I just fell in love with this story entirely. I read it for Polathon last year, and it's one that I now hold very dear to my heart. I loved Echo North. So if you are looking for a Polathon read for next year, I very much recommend this one. Next year? This year. Forgetting that it's the new year already. But if you're looking for a read for Polathon, I completely recommend Echo North. I absolutely adored this book. Next up on my list, and I'll try and be quick about this one, is Way of the Argosy by Sebastian de Castell. It's Sebastian de Castell, of course it was going to be on here. Anything that man writes, I just fall in love with. Same for the sequel on this one, Fall of the Argosy. I just loved both of them. 5 stars. Love Farius. This is a prequel story to Spellslinger following Farius Parfax and how she came to be the woman that we know her to be in the Spellslinger stories. A story of a troubled young girl going through hell to become the person she became. But yeah, absolutely adored this story. Love Farius as a character. Love Sebastian de Castell's writing. He is like my favourite author, so it's bound to happen. If you haven't heard me rave about Seb before though, like, where have you been? But yeah, I won't focus on this one too much because you've probably heard me rave about it many times on my channel. Next up, a surprising one, is actually Extraordinary by Victoria Schwab. This is a graphic novel and I loved this. This was fantastic. I'm surprised a graphic novel has made it to my top 10, in all honesty. Like, did not see that coming. But this was amazing. I love Victoria Schwab and I love the Villains series. I didn't have the highest of hopes for this graphic novel because the Darker Shade of Magic comics I liked but didn't love. This completely redeemed Victoria Schwab as a comic graphic novel writer for me because this was outstanding. I absolutely loved it. But this isn't a series, which I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to get like extraordinary volumes of this. But no, this is just villains, I think it's 2.5, 1.5, which follows Charlotte. And I really hope that in the next villains novel we get more of Charlotte, because where this ended was not okay. I need more of it, like yesterday. This ending was phenomenal. So Charlotte develops an extraordinary ability. She becomes an extraordinary. If you're not familiar with the villain series, it's about Victor and Eli, who discover what it takes to become extraordinary and develop these superhero-like powers, and that is to have a near-death experience. So in this, Charlotte has a near-death experience and develops these extraordinary abilities. Then she's being hunted. I won't say too much because I don't want to risk spoiling anything for anything, because if I talk too much about this I could spoil Vicious and Vengeful, but this blew my mind. I loved it so very much, and I can't believe there's not going to be another volume of it. I really want another volume of it, but I'll settle for the next villains book whenever that becomes a thing. Another surprising one for me this year that came out at 5 stars is The Wicker King by Kay Ancrum. This one I read for Read It Like Cody very early in the year, and I would not have picked this up if it wasn't for that video. This is not the sort of book that I would have gravitated towards, but oh my goodness, did this blow my mind. This was so compelling. So confusing. It was a quick read. I could not put it down. I was very confused for most of the book, and then in the last 30 pages-ish where things start to make sense, oh, incredible, incredible. But this follows 2 boys, August and Jack, and one of them is having these hallucinations. Jack starts having these hallucinations, and August just believes him, decides that the best way to help him with his hallucinations is to just believe him and go along as if they're real. It's a really messed up story, and August and Jack's relationship is very strange. It's like this hallucination fantasy world that they're both going through. But it makes no sense until the very end. But oh my god, I can't explain this one. Trigger warnings for a lot in here though. But it's a really strange relationship, and it just blew my mind. Did not expect this to make it to my best books of 2021, but holy shit, it did. Next up on my list, we have Master of Sorrows by Justin T. Call. This book also blew my mind. I ended up absolutely adoring it. This is kind of like a villain origin story of sorts. It's like the tagline in here is every Dark Lord has an origin. You've heard the story before. An orphaned boy raised by a wise old man comes to a fuller knowledge of his magic and uses it to fight the great evil threatening his world. But what if that hero were destined to become the new Dark Lord? So this follows Anev, who is an orphan boy raised by a wise old man, and he's in this village that has this school, and everything about this school or this academy is about protecting the village from magic, getting rid of magic artifacts, finding them to get rid of them because magic is the source of all evil and anyone who can do magic is evil. Ananev has grown up in this world believing that, but what if that's not quite right? And what if he's got other sources feeding him other information and he's very much in the middle of this and doesn't know which way he sways? And what if he is destined to be this new Dark Lord? It's been a while since I read this one, but I can't think what I can tell you that isn't spoilery and wouldn't be on the blurb. But basically, Anev was born in this village, but he was torn away from his parents because he showed a sign of being like marked by this evil god. So he was taken into the forest to be executed, and it was believed that he was executed. However, he wasn't. But he still has the sign of being like marked by this evil god, destined to be this evil person, but he's been raised by this wise old man in this community where they do everything they can to prevent this dark magic, but he is marked by this dark magic. Anev's dream, more than anything, is to like progress through this academy to become one of the avatars that are capable of finding and protecting from the darkest of magics, but he's also marked by this magic, so it's very confusing, and he's got like conflicting inputs into his life, so it's very much like, where will he fall, where will he go? What is his destiny? Will he be a Dark Lord? But this is only the first book in a much bigger series. I think this series is actually gonna be really long, but only book 2 is out. I've got it up there. It's a weapon of a book. It's massive. This one itself is actually pretty freaking huge. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where this series goes, because this one blew my mind. And again, for a really chunky book, absolutely captivated me, sucked me right in, and I had a fantastic time. Completely recommend. And then we have the last 2 on my list, which kind of go together, and it will probably be no surprise to anyone to see Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons and The Name of All Things by Jen Lyons. Book 1 and book 2 in the Chorus of Dragons series. I fell in love with these books this year. Wholeheartedly fell in love. Absolutely adore this series. Jen Lyons has become one of my favourite authors simply from these books alone. I cannot wait to continue this series. Memory of Souls, I am coming for you very soon, I promise. But damn, these books were so good. Ruin of Kings is the first book in the series. I read this one in 18 hours. I read it for a readathon, but holy shit, I just fell into this so quickly. I don't think I've ever given a book 5 stars as quickly as I gave this 5 stars until I read this, because this one got 5 stars like from the prologue alone. And just, I will forever be sandwiched between these books. I love them so much. So Ruin of Kings follows a boy called Kieran, who is wanted by so many people. Like, there are dragons, there are gods, there are royals, there is like this secret group of people, and somehow Kieran is sought after by all of these people. And he's brought to the attention of the royals for possibly being a long-lost immortal heir, but he's far from living the dream as a prince. It is not everything that he wanted it to be, and wanting to escape his jeweled cage makes matters even worse, as Kieran is horrified to learn that he's at the centre of an ancient prophecy. And then it goes on to say every side, gods, demons, dragons, mages want him as their pawn. The old stories lied about many things too, especially the myth that the hero always wins. Then again, maybe Kieran isn't the hero, for he's not destined to save the empire, he's destined to destroy it. So again, prophecy plays a big part in this. I love a good prophecy. And Kieran is at the centre of this prophecy and is wanted by just about everybody. And there are these magical items that make things so much more wild. It can get a little bit confusing with the family trees and stuff in here. Like, that's definitely some feedback I see a lot, is that the family trees are confusing. I was confused, but like, it's so good. It's so good. I don't know what I can tell you without giving stuff away though, but there are these magical items that mean that certain things are not what they seem. I don't know how to tell you more than that, but so good. And Kieran is brilliant to follow. And then when we get into The Name of All Things, the sequel, we have Janelle, and Janelle is also brilliant to follow. And the way that these are written, it's like the retelling of a story. So in Ruin of Kings, we have Kieran and Talon retelling Kieran's story. Talon as well is a fantastic character. Absolutely fell in love with her. She is not a good character, but she is entertaining to read from. So in this one we have Kieran and Talon retelling Kieran's story, but then it's also being transcribed by someone else, so we also get their input in there as well. And then similarly in this one, we have Janelle telling Janelle's story, but that's been like overheard and is then transcribed, so we also get input from the transcriber on this one. So there are footnotes and stuff. Don't let that put you off with these, because the footnotes add to it and it's just another like tone and like a breaking down of that fourth wall almost, with the transcriber interrupting the story. I just really love it. I really love it. The ending of this one, oh my god, how have I not read Memory of Souls yet? Honestly, I could rave about these books for the longest time, but would anything I say make sense? You know when you love a book so much that you cannot accurately tell anyone what it's about or why you love it, because it just makes you feel so intensely? That's how I feel about these books. Like, just trust me and read them. They're intense, they're fun, they're confusing in the best possible way, mind-blowing. I recommend these books to all of you, everyone, absolutely everyone. Will you all love them? Probably not. But these best books of 2021 by a landslide, winners. Absolute winners. So, 10 points to Jen Lyons. And there we have it. That is my top 10 of the year. Sorry if I got a little bit chaotic. Sorry if that perhaps didn't make sense in spots and I got a little bit blabby. But it's all passion. It all comes from a place of passion. But I hope you have enjoyed. If you have read any of these books and you also love them, let me know down below. And let me know what your favourite book of 2021 was as well. I would love to know. But thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. And I will see you in whatever comes next. Bye!